Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to Roots Refuge Farm. I am getting a few things ready for dinner, and then I'm going to head out and show you guys some cool stuff. I've been on a little YouTube sabbatical. Actually, I've shot a little bit of content while I've been off, but I just wasn't posting, and in not posting, I just kind of took social media off my phone and just chilled for a few weeks. And by chilled, I mean ran a farm and raised a bunch of kids during an extremely busy time. It was very restful. However, there were multiple things that happened during that time that I really wanted to show y'all. Little things and some big things. And so today I figured we would go out on a vlog and kind of catch y'all up a little bit. As I mentioned, I do have a couple more videos that I have shot that we'll watch. One of the points of me taking some time off was that I wanted an opportunity to get a little bit ahead, because we are going into what may be the most packed summer of my life. Right now I'm just cutting up some figs, dried figs. For dinner tonight, I just put together this bunch of drumsticks. That's a massive bowl, and that's a lot of chicken drumsticks. That's not just dinner tonight. I purposefully cook extra when I'm gonna make something like that, because if I'm gonna marinate stuff and grill a bunch of them, I might as well go ahead and make extra for lunch tomorrow. And right now I'm cutting these figs up. I got the chicken marinating in just lemon juice and avocado oil and put a whole bunch of herbs and seasoning on there. And I'm gonna let it sit out for about 20-ish minutes just to come up in temperature a little bit. Meat does better whenever you don't take it and cook it directly out of the fridge, because that causes a lot of steam, I think is why. I don't know. This I'm just doing right now because I'm waiting for my tea, my kettle to boil so that I can make tea to take on our little venture. For something of an update while we sit here and chat, Malia is moving here, which is a huge deal. If you don't know this, we have a blended family. Jeremiah and I have been together for 14 years now, so we've been blended for a good minute. But our older children, Malia came with Jeremiah into our marriage, and then Jackson and Asher came with me into our marriage. And of course, we're celebrating Jackson graduating. Tonight is, I'm going to say this wrong, baccalaureate, which is kind of like a sermon church service situation for the graduates, and my kids go to a really small private Christian school, so that's part of the graduation festivities. This is a really busy week. So Jackson's graduating this month. Malia graduated last year. She has been at UNLV for college this last year, but her mom is no longer living there in Las Vegas, and she is ready to make a change. So she's coming out here. I am going on quite an adventure. I'm hoping to shoot some content of it just because I think it's going to be really cool. I am flying to Vegas. I'm actually driving to Arkansas with Jackson, and then I'm flying to Vegas and then driving back with Malia to move her here with her stuff and get her car here. So that's a 2,200-mile drive. That's a long drive. I've actually never traveled that far. I love driving, and I've made some crazy drives. I've driven 12 hours in one direction and then turned around and come back, just tag teaming to nap. Obviously, she and I are going to break this up and take about a week to make that trip, but that's why I wanted to get ahead. So tonight for dinner, I'm doing the drumsticks. I'm just going to cook them all in the Blackstone. I'm cutting up these dried figs. I've got some salad greens and some crumbly cheese. I'll throw this together. I may put some nuts or something like that in it. I'm also going to put some rice in the rice cooker. I don't actually eat a lot of grains, but kind of fill little boy bellies, and Jackson's doing this powerlifting competition this fall. I gotta make sure I offer carbs with protein. I just eat lots of meat and vegetables, so I have to be mindful for what my kids need, but I'm gonna rinse this off.
What is this? These figs?
Yeah, figs for
salad. That's going in the oven?
On the black stove.
Oh, let's go. That's awesome. Are you doing rice too?
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be great. Thanks, Mom.
All right, tea is done. We're gonna go out to the farm. I'm gonna try to keep this brief. I hope this isn't a terrible time to shoot this video. There's so many things I want to show you guys. But I have to have time to cook those chicken legs and wash my hair before I have to go to the kids' school. Before anybody points out the silliness of feeling like I need to put myself together to go into a gym with 100 people after I put a video up for 50,000 to watch with my hair mess. I realize that does not make sense. I know. We all have our eccentricities. I am what I am. How's it going, guys? Oh, I didn't see the peanut gallery over there.
Probably back at that far. You could have slugged all of these. You know?
What are y'all doing? Just watching the game?
Yeah, we're in the box seat.
The box seat. Okay, thing one, on the back side of this flower bed that runs the front of my house. Look at this. That is a rogue volunteer squash, and it's quite large. There's another small one over there, but this one is growing up and it's climbing the butterfly bush, and you already know I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna let this rogue driveway squash do whatever it wants, because I just have to know what it's gonna do. Or even what it is. I have no clue what that is. I'm assuming it's a Dutch fork pie pumpkin, because we had so many of those pumpkins last year. We fed a bunch of them to the animals, and of course, once you have animals eating stuff, birds, there's just a lot of seeds that go all over the place. They're in the compost, whatever, and I'm assuming that that's what that is, but we'll see. You know, I had a random spaghetti squash grow down at the other end of my flower bed for like 2 years in a row, and some little like tiny miniature pumpkins, and those had to have come from compost plants, from purchased things, because I've never really grown either one of those things here. So I don't know, this one could be any number of things. It'll probably be like super hardy and healthy, because in my experience volunteer plants usually are. But I just love it. Look at him, just growing on up there. Ooh, the wind is picking up. I'm gonna leave this here for a moment while we walk out here. So in my absence from YouTube, my goats learned how to goat a little bit. So right before I took the break, the goats, I started trying to let my goats out into the yard. Backstory, I purchased these goats from a guy that like breeds show goats, and they were culls to his herd, meaning they had like flaws. Like one of them has a kind of lopsided udder, one of them has a really bad underbite. Just different things that weren't necessarily like wanting to be bred into like show lines. Well, they had lived the majority of their life in a barn, and so I got them. I was planning on like putting them in the woods, raising them entirely on browse. Yeah, definitely a mistake on my part. You know, it's not something I had considered. It never occurred to me that you would end up with goats that like don't know how to be goats. Which, I love my goats. I'm very happy with the girls I got. It's working out really well. But for a while I would put them out in this yard and they would just scream and cry. As you can see, they're settling in pretty nicely to the goat life. What do you think, Winifred? Winifred's the one with the underbite. See those little toothies sticking out? They do admittedly still prefer the hay to the green grass, but I see them nibble here and there. Look. Hey there, Virgie. Hey, Virgie girl, what's up? Hey. Sweet darling. Here's Avocado coming to say hello. Claire, do you want to say hi to our friends? Winnie's limping a little bit. She was not this morning. I think it's because she was laying on her leg. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. With my goats being very uncomfortable outside of barn life, we just pumped the brakes on trying to build them a yard out in the woods. We're talking about potentially building that pasture, but kind of opening it up to the cows and the goats together so that the goats can maintain access to the barn throughout the day, because I don't want to just make them stay all day outside if they're not okay with that. And I know that probably sounds like so silly, like they're goats, they'd be fine. But I also, like when I was talking about getting goats again, I was thinking, oh, we need this dedicated goat yard, we need this dedicated goat structure. But I've never had just 3 goats. I've always had like a lot of them. I mean, at one point we had like 30 plus goats. And so 3, they don't eat a ton. They don't make that much of a difference. They're fine, especially since they don't really eat a lot of the grass, but they're okay. So I don't know what we're doing for that. It's just not something I'm that worried about, because as it turns out, we kind of already had everything we needed to keep the goats with the structure we currently had. I was overthinking it. Imagine that. All right, next stop, the garden. Oh good, no bugs got in my tea. I can see Winnie walking, and she's not limping anymore. It was just that her foot was asleep. All right, I pulled forward 3 feet, but I have to show y'all. Y'all, look at Hope's face. I think she's just enjoying the breeze on her face, but she looks absolutely above us all. Oh man, I don't even know if that's gonna show. Is that a nice breeze, Hopi girl? Oh, the audience has joined the game. Some years ago when we first moved here to South Carolina, all 5 of my boys played baseball for 1 year. Jackson and Asher played at their school, and the 3 little boys played Little League. And Ben was the only one that like wanted to play again after that. The others were like, it's just not for me. And they moved on. Well, Ben has become just an extremely enthusiastic baseball player, and it turns out he's got a lot of natural talent, and then pair that with having a lot of passion. And so we have spent a lot of time doing baseball. You know, he does travel ball, he has done all-stars, like all the different things. Well, this year, after the last 2 years of Ben playing so passionately, they're loud, I don't even know if y'all can hear them, but this last like month or so, Toby and Ezra are like, well, we want to learn how to play baseball. So Ben and Jeremiah have been teaching Toby and Ezra and practicing with them, and it's really cool. It's really sweet for them all to be out here playing together every day. That's all they want to do. So one of the big things that I did in the last few weeks when I was not posting on YouTube is I took Asher on his 17 trip. So when Jackson turned 17, I started like a tradition with the boys where I took them on a one-on-one trip to Universal Studios down in Orlando. Being a really big family, we've only ever done like the big theme park thing one time, and we thought this really is not for us as a big family. It's astronomically expensive. Jeremiah doesn't really like roller coasters. Our kids all like roller coasters, and I like roller coasters, but he doesn't. It's hard to please everybody, and it stinks whenever you're trying so hard to have a great time and everybody's not having a great time. And with the whole family, we typically have to go in the summer, and it's so hot. So when we came back, he and I were talking, and that's when we came up with the 17 trip, which is basically the play of it, like why 17. Really, why 17 is because that's kind of the tail end of them not like already having a whole lot of aspects of their own life that they're juggling, where they're still like would want to go on a one-on-one trip, which I say that. I mean, I feel like my kids still, even the ones that are older than that, they still do now. I mean, Malia and I are going to have a really great time on our road trip across the country, but it's something that's fun, and the play on it is you know, the whole, at Universal Studios, there's the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and in the stories of that, someone comes of age at 17. So that's kind of like the idea. But I took Asher on his trip. His birthday is actually coming up this week. It's probably, I don't know when this will air, but it'll be right around the time of Asher's birthday. But we went a few weeks early since Asher's birthday fell the week of Jackson's graduation. And we had a really good time. I love these trips because it allows me to really connect with my kids where they are as they're coming into adulthood, while they're in the thick of the teenage years. And you know, whenever you have a lot of kids and you have a really busy life, though you can be very intentional with connection, sometimes things kind of fall through the cracks, you know, like you won't necessarily realize exactly what's going on in their life.
Some children.
That was kind of the idea of this trip. Like, hey, let's go into senior year strong. Let's go into 17, you know, 18 strong with really great connection, and I can really know how best to parent them. So that was definitely achieved. We had a really fun time. Asher is a really cool kid. Like, I love the way that he thinks about the world. He's very special, and I had a great time with him. Speaking of all the driving I'm doing, there's this guy that I follow on Instagram named, I think his Instagram handle is like I'm Josh from England or something like that. I think he's on TikTok too, but I don't really go on there much. But he has these things where he talks about Americans. He's from England, and he spends a lot of time in the United States, and he talks about Americans being built different and how we will drive like nobody's business. And it's true. It has to be over like a 10-hour drive for me to even consider going in an airplane. And truly, like, when we went to Orlando, we get up super early in the morning, drive down there, go to the park the next day, and then do another half day, and then drive back. So it's exhausting. By the time I get home, I'm like dead exhausted. Jeremiah said this time, he's like, maybe by the time the little boys get 17, you ought to consider adding an extra day to this trip so you don't come home so exhausted. You know, I just love driving. I mean, make me sit down for several hours and listen to audiobooks? Okay. Like, that's not hard. I might be singing a different tune whenever I get back from Vegas. That's almost clear across the country, just shy of it. But as I said, we're gonna stretch that one out, just to only have this little bit of time to be able to spend it with my kids like this, and I'm gonna do it. All right, so the next thing that I have been dying to show y'all, and I did shoot an entire garden tour, but I feel like it bears going back over, the cottage garden. Come on, can you believe this space? I actually have to fill up this fountain like multiple times a day. It's settled in to be a little crooked and we need to fix it, but we're not going to do that while everything's in bloom. If it runs dry, the motor burns up, so that's not great. So I think that this was really just starting to take off like crazy when I decided to take a little break from YouTube. And now it is just insane. It's so pretty. I've been spending so much time sitting out here in this space, and you know, something will kind of peter out and I'll be like, oh, that's such a bummer, but then something else opens up and starts blooming. Like the roses have kind of died back quite a bit, but then this lovely bee balm opened up. The baptisias are finishing. For some reason, the ones on the right side of the garden more so than the ones on the left, but these lovely huge hibiscus plants that are everywhere are going to be blooming soon. The cannas are opening, and of course the black hollyhocks, which I love, are gorgeous. Hilariously, you know, we threw a bunch of excess strawberry plants all over the place, and the garden this year has just been intensely giving us strawberries. And when I see them, I pick them. Even if they've got bug damage, I'll try to pick them off just to tell the plants to go ahead and keep producing. But yeah, it's just gorgeous. I'm so pleased with the cottage garden. You know, y'all, I considered just tearing it all out and starting over, but I was really just hasty in that. I was being impatient. Don't forget this. I thought all my irises are done, but this one just bloomed again yesterday. I guess it wanted to show off for y'all. Little dahlias. Some lovely roses, still looking pretty nice. Isn't it awesome? I'm just so tickled by the garden. So you'll notice back here, nothing has happened on our house. You know, it's only been a few weeks, and as these things typically do, it's going slow. We've had lots of little silly paperwork delays and different things like that, but I feel very confident that when it all starts to move forward, we're going to be like, oh, this is the perfect timing. So I don't really feel worried about it. Like, at this point, we're so busy over the next like couple of months that I think it's actually probably great that we're not in the thick of building the house. We were kind of looking at it, and we were talking about it, and just as long as we can break ground and get it with enough time to get it in the dry before the really wet season starts, that would be good. And actually, you know, typically speaking, it's best to start building houses like early on in the year, like early in the spring. But where we are, and with the given circumstances of our life, and given the fact that we're trying to do a lot of the work ourselves on our house, and that this is what we do for our job, I'm actually thinking it's going to work out way better that our plan did not come to pass. Like, we were trying to start at the beginning of March, and we've hit so many delays. It will actually be better for us as long as we get it into the dry by like midwinter, that we'll be doing all of the finish work during our slow season rather than trying to do all of this during the high season. You know, that's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes we make plans, God laughs, and then it all comes out on wash day. All right, one more look at this stunning view. All right, so I've saved for last the thing that I have been dying to show y'all the most. If you follow me on other social media, you've probably seen photos of this because I shared them on Instagram and Facebook. But we have lambs. Let's go see them. Hello, sheep. Ooh, stepping over that fence in the skirt was interesting. Hey, cuties. Hey, little cutie. Would you like some attention, ma'am? Y'all, we have hair sheep. If you see these like mounds of fiber hanging off of them, they blow their coats every year. They rub up on trees and stuff like that. And eventually when they have just little scraps like that, we'll end up pulling them off. But we don't want to do that to a bunch of them because they don't like that. So when we got our new sheep, I previously had 2 St. Croix ewes that I got when they were little lambs. And I had raised them up, Tilly and Ramona. Just someone contacted me that watched the channel and said, hey, you know, I have a friend that she's looking to downsize. They're moving, and she has St. Croix also, because I was at the time looking for a ram, and I wanted to make sure that I was getting animals from a clean herd that weren't going to have disease, and then also wanted to make sure I was getting animals that had been organically managed, that weren't just like terribly dependent on chemical dewormers and stuff like that. And so when she contacted me, I reached out to the lady and I purchased 4 ewes from her as well as the ram. He's over in the pasture in a pen. So she was pretty sure they were bred whenever I got them because they had been in with the ram for a few months. As it turns out, they actually weren't, which is fine. I'm completely okay with how it turned out. They were still great animals to get, and I'm super happy with them. So when we got him, we put him in with Tilly and Ramona, and we were moving them around in some different pens, and so we kept them separate for a little while. We eventually put them all in together. So they should all be bred now. The 2 that have lambed already, it's Tilly and Ramona, and they did give birth, I mean, almost exactly, their gestation is the same as goats, like 160-ish days or something like that. And it was almost exactly 160-ish days after he came here. So we have 3 little lambs. One had a single, one had twins. Let's see, this one was born first. She's a little bit bigger, being a singleton. And then these are also 2 ewes. We had 3 ewe lambs. I'm actually taking a look at her, and of course she's just losing all her coat, but I don't like how thin Mama is, so I might have to bring her out a little supplement. Nursing those 2 babies, it can be a lot for them sometimes. So I've come over here a lot and just sat here and watched them. They'll get going and bounce all over this pen. It's pretty adorable. So I briefly pondered potentially like really trying to socialize these little ewe lambs for the idea of potentially milking them in the future. I am not opposed to that idea, but it became quickly apparent for this season, it's not the time. I had to get really real with myself and be like, self, no, you're not doing that. Because I came out here for about a week and like handled them a whole lot and all of that. But it takes a lot of intentionality. Really, if you really want to handle lambs that are raised by their moms or goat kids or anything like that, you really need to keep them in a close enough situation that you can get to them, because the older they get, the more like flighty and run around they get. And I was not prepared to try to rework our barnyard situation to make a space to isolate these. I really just wanted to keep them all together in the rest of the flock. Yeah, I just decided to let that go. They're beautiful, and they're all girls. So we're kind of pondering how big we want to let this grow. Abel, our ram, is a jerk, and we knew that when we bought him. She told us he was a jerk. He was bottle raised, and a lot of times with any bottle raised male animal, once they're big enough to actually do some damage, they don't know that they're an animal and you're a person, so they treat you like they would like a fellow, like he treats us like he would a fellow ram. And so he can't, that's why like he can't be in this space if we're gonna get in and out of here. Like we have to keep him separate. He cannot be in a space that people are getting in. At some point, I probably would like to get another ram anyway that we can handle a little differently than him. And he needs a buddy anyway. So I'm kind of thinking, we're talking about keeping these girls. And then when the other 4 ones lamb, we'll see what we get and what we want to do with that. Because we want to put some lamb in the freezer. But our plan was to just do that with the males. And we just haven't gotten any yet. So I don't know, I'm just kind of waiting and seeing. The others are definitely starting to fill out. I thought they looked pregnant before, but they're just hefty. They're a little more mature. I was used to Tilly and Ramona, who were like young girls. Like they were the equivalent of like an 18-year-old. And these other mamas, you know, they're a few years old, they've had babies a few times, and they're the equivalent of like me. So now I'm like, oh, okay. You're just a lady, you, not a girl, you. And they weren't pregnant. They just looked a little like it, which I totally feel that, you know? I mean, same sometimes. I'm loving the babies though. It's super fun. And I mean, doesn't the farm look just absolutely bucolic from here? It's just glorious. I see a little calf frolicking over there. Chickens, roosters crowing, garden growing. Now we just need our house right there, and it'll be a complete view. See ya, cuties. Well, other than that, I can't think of much else you've missed the last few weeks. I did a ton of fishing. I caught the biggest fish I've ever caught on my pond. A really big catfish, actually. That was interesting. Watched a lot of baseball as we finished up the season for Ben, and yeah, it's been a restful time. The thing that I gathered from it the most is that I love when you remove any sense of obligation to do something and you find that it's really what you want to do. And that's what taking a break from really focusing on posting YouTube content did for me. Is it reminded me that I love doing this, and that is a really great thing to realize when you remove all the obligation and realize that your life is just as you want it to be. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today and all the days you do. God bless you. Until next time.